I think one of the most interesting things that's happening right now from a North American perspective is to see the movement for a Green New Deal in the United States, which has gained a lot of political interest and a lot of political support and generated some new energy into the climate movement. And it's had impacts in other countries, stimulated similar debates in Canada and other places like the United Kingdom, and there are similar ideas elsewhere. And so I think what's interesting about the Green New Deal is that it's an idea for much stronger climate action, for very ambitious targets to move to renewable energy in a very rapid and urgent way. But it's also it's involving the state, involving the government in a much more significant way in terms of public investments, large-scale public investment, as well as private investment in low-carbon energy, public transit, affordable energy, energy efficiency, and it's also bringing in issues of economic justice alongside the issues of climate action. And I think that's been very important in terms of communicating to people that this has potential to make regular people's lives better. So work time reduction is an idea that has been proposed as a part of a sustainable future. It's an idea that I've advocated. I've also been influenced by many others who've written on this issue. And I think it's about, in large part, it's about a new vision of well-being, an alternative way to improve people's lives. Basically, we have questions, we have options about how we take advantage of our capacities for economic progress, our ability to produce more, in every hour of labor, and we can take advantage of that in terms of more material production, or we can take advantage of that in terms of more time. And I think it's, given the ecological situation, it makes sense for people to increasingly take advantage of economic progress in the form of more time rather than more income and consumption. And I think that's also very important as a way to improve quality of life, because there's quite significant evidence that in countries that are already at high levels of income, having more income and consumption does relatively little to improve people's well-being. I'm not saying it does nothing, but it's a very relatively small improvements. But in terms of giving people more time, more capacity to develop their networks of friendships, time with their families, times to be connected in their communities, these are things that can have very strong impacts on well-being. So it offers a way to improve people's quality of life in a very significant way. In terms of the alternatives for measuring GDP, I think this is a key question in terms because I think GDP, it was never intended as a measure of progress or well-being. It just really measures the quantity of production in the monetary value of production in an economy. And so I think there's a wide recognition now that that's not a good way to measure how prosperous a society is, how much well-being there is in a society. So there's wide recognition now that we need better measures. There's a lot of debate about what the best alternative is, and I think there isn't at this point a consensus on what the best alternative is, but there are a number of different options. So there are some ideas for trying to adjust GDP by incorporating monetary measures of other environmental and economic costs, so including the costs of pollution in the calculation, including the value of leisure time, the value of work in the household and in communities, things that GDP completely ignores, which are important, either benefits or costs. So you can try to calculate those values and put them in a new measure. So there is a measure called the Genuine Progress Indicator that does that, and that's one alternative. And there are versions of that in Europe. There's a national welfare index that was developed in Germany, for example, that's similar, and some other types of measures of that kind.